here. Okay, 5, Robbie.
Just need
4.
to mute
Sorry?
everybody.
Everyone's
Sorry.
okay?
Just need to mute everyone, Kurt. Mute everybody, mute, please.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the October meeting of the Mansfield Shire Council. With us today online, we have Deputy Mayor, Councillor James Tehan, Councillor Steve Raby, Councillor Rowan Webb, our CEO, Ms. Colleen Conrick, our General Manager, Infrastructure and Planning, Ms. Kirsten Alexander, and our General Manager of Community and Corporate Services, Mr. Kurt Heidecker, as well as our Coordinator of Governance and Risk, Ms. Maura Moss. With no further ado, we'll get the meeting underway. If I can call on each councillor and ask them to confirm verbally that they can see all councillors and hear the proceedings. Councillor Raby?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I can see and hear all councillors.
Councillor Tehan?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I can see all councillors and hear.
Thanks, Councillor Tehan. Councillor Webb?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I can hear the proceedings and see all councillors and council officers.
Thank you. And we'll come to it in the apologies, but I'll just note here the Councillor Sladen offers his apologies for this evening. If councillors could respond to their name with the words, "I can hear the proceedings and see all councillors and council officers." Councillor Raby?
I can see all councillors and council officers.
Thanks, Councillor Raby. Councillor Tehan?
I can hear the proceedings and see all councillors and council officers.
Thank you. Councillor Webb?
I can hear the proceedings and see all councillors and council officers.
Thank you. If each councillor could confirm by raising their hand that they could all hear each statement of the councillors. Councillor Raby? Yep. Councillor Webb? Councillor Tehan? Thank you. Apologies, the CEO, Colleen Conrick, are there any apologies?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Sladen is an apology tonight for the meeting.
Thank you. If I could call on each councillor to confirm their commitment to the statement of commitment. And the statement is, as councillors of Mansfield Shire, we're committed to ensuring our behaviour meets the standards set by the Mansfield Shire Councillor Code of Conduct and Councillor Charter. We will at all times faithfully represent and uphold the trust placed in us by the community. Councillor Raby?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I confirm my commitment.
Councillor Tehan?
I confirm my commitment.
And Councillor Webb?
I confirm my commitment.
Thank you. Item 5 is the acknowledgement of country. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Tehan, could you recite Council's acknowledgement of country?
Yes, our meeting has been held on the lands of the Tungarong people, and we wish to acknowledge them as traditional owners. We would also like to pay our respects to their elders past and present, and Aboriginal elders of other communities who may be here today.
Thanks, Councillor Tehan. If I could call on each councillor and ask them to declare whether they have any conflicts of interest in relation to any of this evening's agenda items. Councillor Raby?
I have no items of conflict in tonight's agenda items.
Thank you. Councillor Tehan?
I have no conflict of interest in relation to any of tonight's agenda items.
And Councillor Webb?
I have no conflict of interest in relation to any agenda items tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Item 7 is the confirmation of the minutes, council meeting minutes held on the 21st of September and the 28th of September. Do we have a motion, please? Councillor Raby?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. That the minutes of the Mansfield Shire Council meetings held on the 25th of September 2021 and the 28th of September 2021 be confirmed as an accurate record.
Thanks, Councillor Roby. A seconder? Councillor Tam? Those in favour of the minutes? The motion is passed. Thank you. Item number 10, the Mayor's report. Oh, sorry, notice of motion. Is anything there at all?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there are no notices of motion tonight. Thank you.
And any representations?
There are no representations listed for tonight's meeting.
Thank you. Item 10 is the Mayor's report. I'll take the report as given, but are there any questions or comments? Councillors, do we have a recommendation? Councillor Tam?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'll recommend that Council receives the Mayor's report for the period 14th of September 2021 to the 8th of October 2021.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Webb? Those in favour of the motion? The motion is passed. Thank you. Item 11 is reports from council appointed representatives. The Golden Murray Climate Alliance Committee. Councillor Webb is a representative on that committee. Councillor Webb, do you have anything to add?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. We've not met since the previous council meeting, so no, nothing further to report as yet.
Thank you. The Hume Regional Local Government Network, again, we haven't met, similar to Councillor Webb, we haven't met since the last meeting. The Lake Eildon Land and On-Water Management Plan, Councillor Sladden, who's absent. Is there anything anyone would wish to add on this? The Mansfield Shire Council and Risk Committee has not met. Mansfield Shire Business and Community Recovery Advisory Committee also has not met. The MAV has also not met. The North East Local Government Waste Forum, Councillor Roby.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Our next meeting is tentatively on Thursday, the 2nd of December. We'll have a joint meeting with the board, I believe. That's to be confirmed. So I'll get back to you in November, our November meeting about that. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Roby. And Rural Councils Victoria also has not met. Recommendation, councillors, do we have a motion? Thanks, Councillor Webb.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Motion being that council note the verbal reports provided by councillors in relation to their representation on external committees.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Roby. Those in favour? The motion is passed. Thank you. Item 12 is public question time. I believe that there are no questions for tonight's meeting. I've not received anything, and I assume that's the case.
That's correct, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Item 13 is the Chief Executive Officer's report. Are there any questions, councillors, regarding the report? Councillor Webb.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. A couple of points. Firstly, really pleased to see an update on youth services in the report. A bit of information in there, which I know I've been asking for a few meetings. So I'm really, really pleased to see that, and good to see a bit more engagement happening, particularly over social media with youth services. So that's great. I note there's a few new initiatives coming through economic development, which is exciting. A quick question about these new initiatives. Some of them, particularly the one about putting together a 1 day, 3 day, 5 day stay in Mansfield. Is that in partnership with TNE, or is this something we're doing off our own bat? And this is probably towards Kurt, Mr. Heidecker, I'm directing this question.
It's through you, Mr. Mayor. It's been done, yes, through the Tourism Northeast in terms of putting those packages together so that we can encourage and increase stays, and also done with our visitor information service as well. So it's a joined up effort to try and extend the length of stays as well as the quality of stays in our region.
Great, good to hear. My only other point on the CA report, I just noticed there's a spike in the 90-day debtors on the rates payment. Is that just because the rates notices have just gone out, or do we have an explanation why it's jumped up so steeply?
For you, Mr. Mayor, I'll also pass over to the General Manager of Community Corporate Services to respond.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. It's in relation to an unpaid invoice of $332,000 that has been generated by a subdivision that is waiting for ministerial approval. So the developer has declined to pay that invoice until they get that ministerial approval. But we are separately following up with that invoice to get it paid as quickly as we can and to hasten it.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Councillors, any other questions? Councillor Tan?
Yeah, just a note on in the report about planning applications. For the previous month, there was 0 planning applications that went over 60 days. So congratulations to the planning department on that front. It's the first time I've seen that since we've been here, so that's fantastic. Yes, no, the debtors days was also, which Councillor Webb has covered. So no, that's very good. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Ravi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I've got a question for CEO. There's 2 FOIs. One's been resolved. Can you tell me what the second FOI is for, please?
For you, Mr. Mayor, I'll pass over to the General Manager of Community and Corporate Services regarding the FOI. Just from a broad, high-level response, please, General Manager.
And through you, Mr. Mayor, I might ask our Coordinator Governance and Risk just to give that high-level overview, please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, in answer to your question, the second FOI was for some solicitors. There were numerous parties. I think it related to a building in Sawmill Settlement and seeking original planning and building documents, perhaps to an asbestos claim. We did not hold those documents, so that is now between the CEO's report in the last couple of days. We've closed the FOI within the timeframe and informed the parties that we don't hold those documents after a very diligent search through our storage by Ms. Jane Carter.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions, councillors? Do we have a motion? Councillor Webb.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Motion being that Council receive and note the Chief Executive Officer's report for period 8 September 21 to 6 of October 21.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Turn. Those in favour? The motion is passed. Thank you. Item 13.2.1 is the adoption of a planning scheme amendment C49, New Street rezoning, and the responsible officer is Melissa Crane, who's the Manager of Planning and Environment. And welcome, Melissa. Welcome, Melissa. You there? Welcome, Melissa. Sorry. Councillor, are there any questions or comments on this report? Councillor Ravi?
Yeah, just I suppose it's more a comment than a question, maybe perceived as both. that this came before us in the meeting of the 16th of March 2021 is fairly well covered there, and I don't see any issues. Are there any issues that have come to us since then, Melissa?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there has been no issues raised as a result of the exhibition. We had some inquiries about the state of the road adjacent to the property, which we referred to our Senior Coordinator of Field Services, who's actually done some work out there to more broadly make the community a bit happier out there, but there was no concerns with the proposed rezoning or the planning permit that's to be issued.
Right, thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Just one, Melissa. How common are these C49s in local government, or in this Shire? Possibly would be a better question.
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Mayor, the proponent-driven amendments is something that are allowed if strategic planning sometimes isn't keeping up with what the community may want on a particular property. This one was a bit specialised because it was about flooding, so it was a very technical matter involving the Goulburn Broken Catchment Management Authority. They do come up from time to time. We would prefer to have planning scheme amendments as part of a broader consideration when we're doing a strategy, say like the commercial and industrial land use strategy, rather than splitting things out individually. But it does happen and we have to consider them when they're proposed to us.
Thank you for that explanation. And just noting that there was no objections received to this.
That, through you, Mr. Mayor, that is correct.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments? Do we have a motion? Councillor Rabi?
Yeah, thanks. I'd like to put to the council a motion that the council one adopt the amendment C49 to the Mansfield Planning Scheme in accordance with section 29 of the Planning and Environment Act 1987. 2, recommend to the Minister for Planning that planning permit number P014/21 be granted in accordance with section 96G of the Planning and Environment Act 1987. And 3, submit amendment C49 to the Mansfield Planning Scheme and planning permit number P014/21, together with the prescribed information to the Minister for Planning in accordance with section 31 of the Planning and Environment Act 1987.
Thanks, Councillor Rabi. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Turn. Would you like to speak at all to the motion, Councillor Rabi?
No, Mr. Mayor, I think it's pretty straightforward and it's been on the books now since March.
Thank you. Councillor Turn, the seconder, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Any other speakers? Councillor Rabi, last chance.
No, I haven't changed my mind.
Okay, those in favour of the motion? The motion is passed. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is item 13.2.2 regarding 158 Malcolm Street, use and development of land for a second dwelling, development of an outbuilding ancillary to a dwelling. Responsible officer is Mr. Tim Berger, Coordinator of Statutory Planning. Councillors, is Ms. Crane, are you representing Tim? Is that, or no? Tim, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillors, are there any questions or comments on this this report? Councillor Rabi?
Yeah, thank you. Just, I I believe that this report has come to council because the applicant works for council, and that is the reason it's come here for transparency purposes. Is that correct, Tim?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, that's right, Councillor Ravi.
Yeah, I'm just sort of explaining the process to the people out there that may be watching this. And also a question is that there were no objections to this application, and this is a fairly vanilla application in itself. Is that correct?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I would say that's a fairly apt description of the application, Councillor Ravi, and no objections were received.
Thanks very much, Tim, and nice to meet you. Thanks for coming along.
No worries. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Ravi, and a great description of the vanilla application. That's a great description. So thanks, Councillor Ravi, for that. Is there any other questions or comments? Councillors, do we have a motion? Councillor Ravi?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'm not going to read this one out, given that it takes 2 pages, but I'd like to move the motion that council, the motion is on page 18 and 19 on the agenda, which is 13.2.2, the 158 Malcolm Street, Mansfield, use and development of land for a second dwelling.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Term. Councillor Ravi, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Only to note, Mr. Mayor, that these things have to come before council when we have people working for us in the business to make it transparent, so everyone understands that, you know, it's before us and they can see it, and there's no problems with us. It's, as I said, very vanilla. I like the fact that these people are looking to develop and create more space. I know that the town needs more building, and suffice to say that looking forward to them building their home on there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Turn, do you wish a second? Do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, I think Councillor Ravi's covered it very well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Councillor Ravi, do you wish to say any more? Those in favour of the motion? The motion is passed. Thank you. Item point 3.2.3 is the men's shed lease issue. The responsible officer is the General Manager, Infrastructure and Planning, Kirsten Alexander. Any questions or comments, councillors?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Given that this, probably to you, Kirsten, given that this item was at our last meeting, and we were hoping that it might be resolved by this meeting, but I see that there's been insufficient progress to enable a further report to council. Has there been any progress at all in this that you're aware of?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Councillor Tim, for the question. Yes, I understand that there has been some progress and some discussions, probably via email, between the organisations with an attempt to arrange a meeting. I don't think that meeting has happened yet, so hence the reason why we've brought this report to council, to just allow a bit more time for the parties to get together and arrange a mutually acceptable time and basis for that meeting.
Thanks, thanks, Kirsten. It seems a pretty long time not to be able to organise a meeting between the two parties. But anyway, I guess that's it. So what's it'll be now put over until the November meeting, is that right?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, fingers crossed. Yes, we'd certainly like to see that happen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, any other questions or comments? Councillor Riley?
Yeah, just I suppose leading on from our last meeting, I'm glad that they are coming together and trying to resolve this. Would be very expeditious for them to do it by our next meeting in November, which is, that's another 4 weeks away. So great to see that something is happening and that two well thought of community places can get together and try and resolve this without us having to make the hard decision for them.
Thanks, Councillor Rabi. Any other questions or comments? Councillors, do we have a motion? Councillor Rabi?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move the motion that council notes that a further report on this matter will be provided at the November council meeting in 2021, and that no further action on the Mace council lease will be taken until council receives the further report.
Thanks, Councillor Rabi. Do you have a second it? Councillor Webb? Councillor Rabi, do you wish to speak at all to the motion?
Yeah, I would like to. I'd like to reiterate, I think I'd speak for most councillors here, that I'd like to reiterate that it would be great if these guys can get together and sort this out. And we've given them another 4 weeks to November, and looking forward to the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rabi. Councillor Webb, do you wish to speak?
Just to mirror Councillor Rabi's sentiments. Yep, encourage that there's progress. Let's keep moving down the path. Let's get it done so that the community can carry on doing what they do best.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Those in favour of the motion? The motion is carried. Item 13.2.4 is the Township Reserves Maintenance Policy for non-council land. Our responsible officer is Ari Croxford-Damasi, Senior Coordinator of Field Services. He'll be joining us shortly. Welcome, Ari. Welcome, Ari.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillors, are there any questions or comments on this report? Councillor Tan?
Just one question, Ari, if I could. I noticed in this report that the Bonnie Doon Rec Reserve has been removed from the policy as council resolved on the 21st of September to take on the Committee of Management responsibility. Is that, if that proves to take longer than anticipated, is that going to be an issue for what we do down there?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. No, Councillor Tan, that won't be a problem. I think we'll be down there again tomorrow. Maintenance works are ongoing in the meantime. So that won't create any problems from an upkeep perspective.
Right, thank you.
Any other questions, councillors? Okay, if there's no other questions, do we have a motion? Councillor Tan?
Yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to recommend that Council endorse the updated Township Reserves Maintenance Policy.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder? Councillor Webb. Councillor T, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yeah, just I'd like to congratulate firstly the Merton Cricket Club. I think it's a great success story to see that they've been resurrected after 4 years of not being able to field a side. So, and this goes against the flow of all small local communities. Usually once these sporting clubs fold, they don't get back on the track. So huge congratulations to the committee down there and the people who have persisted to put a side back on the track, and hopefully they're successful in the upcoming season, which I think starts in about a week's time. So and great that the Shire are able to contribute by going down there and helping out mowing the MCG, as they call it. So yeah.
Thanks, Councillor Tan. Councillor Webb, do you wish to speak to the seconder?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just to draw people's attention to the fact that the amount that council allocates to this this particular item is multiplied many times by the communities themselves. So this is a small amount that council contributes compared to the enormous amount of effort that these communities put in to maintain these areas. So this is council empowering communities to help them, I guess, paint their own destinies. So I'm very pleased to see this go through and carry on because this small amount of money means an incredible amount to these community groups, and it's good to be able to support them in looking after the little patch. So I'm glad to see this go through.
Thanks, Councillor Webb. Councillor Turner, as a mover, do you wish to sum up?
No, thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
I think you already have one.
Oh, sorry.
Yep.
Sorry. I'm ahead of myself. Those in favour of the motion? The motion is passed. Thank you. Item 13.3.1 is the Outline Community Fund, Community Infrastructure Fund. The responsible officer is the Community Development Coordinator, Claire Berghofer. Just waiting for Claire to come on. We might continue. Councillors, are there any questions or comments while Claire's connecting, which I think she's just done? Claire, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillors, are there any questions or comments? No questions, no comments? Councillor Tam?
You're on mute, James.
You're on mute, James.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. Yeah. G'day, Claire. How you going? There's just been this Outline Community Infrastructure Fund, which is a fantastic fund, and it's going back out to the community. There's been three changes that have been made to that. Would you like to briefly just summarise what those changes are for the benefit of the people in the meeting?
Sure. Through you, Mr. Mayor, the three changes to the guidelines this time are the groups or organisations that were successful in the last round, which was 2021, and not eligible for the grant in 21-22. The second being the project must be shovel ready with a completion date of 12 months after the agreeing signing date, COVID restrictions permitting, obviously. And the third is that 100% of the grant will be paid to successful applicants after the funding agreement has been signed by both parties and an invoice has been received by council.
Thanks, Claire.
Thanks very much, Claire.
Any other questions, councillors? Councillor, do we have a motion? Councillor Webb?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Motion being it's recommended that the proposed changes to the guidelines for the 2021 to 22 Outlying Community Infrastructure Fund program be endorsed by council.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Tan? Councillor Webb, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yeah, just to draw attention that these little tweaks have been made to the fund to make it easier for community groups to apply and receive funds. $50,000 is a lot of money that can go a very long way in a small community, and certainly the council officers will assist anyone who asks for it. So certainly put your hand up and get involved.
Thank you. Councillor Tan, do you wish to speak?
Yeah, just to back that up and just to encourage communities to get out there and to apply for these grants and to let them know that council will support their grant applications as well too if they need that. So it's a good cause and wasn't wholly taken up last time. So yeah, it's there and available again.
Thanks, Councillor Tan. Any other speakers? Councillor Webb, you wish to say anything else?
No, thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Those in favour of the motion? Motion is passed. Thank you. Thank you, Claire.
Thank you.
Community Vision 2040, which is item 13.3.2. Sorry, 13.3.2. Councillors, are there any questions or comments? Councillor Raby?
I'm extremely delighted to see that the indoor aquatic facility that has been included into the 2040 vision, and looking forward to Yapham continuing on now that we have that we're going to be voting on this vision tonight. Thanks.
Any other questions, comments, or comments? I just got one question for Mr. Kurt Heidaker, who I should have mentioned is the responsible officer for this vision. Kurt, this is, if I'm correct, this is the first time the council's used the deliberative engagement process. That's
correct, Mr. Mayor. Yes.
Thank you. Can you tell me what you thought of it, and what has it been a success, or is there things we could have done better, and how's it been received?
To answer your last question first, Mr. Mayor, it's been received very well. We had a very positive deliberative panel who considered this vision and went through it and gave the feedback to the consultant facilitating the process. I think being the first time that we've done this process, there's always things that we can improve. And this afternoon, I spent 2 hours with the consultant and our communications officer going through some more suggestions and how we can improve that process and flesh it out. But I think generally the process was well received. It certainly, I think you'll agree, got the results in terms of the detail of the vision, and certainly the 3,000 people and 25,000 words we received speaks volumes about the way it was received by the community. So I think overall, it was a challenge being our first time. We've learnt a lot, but I think the process has been very successful at the same time.
Thanks, Mr. Heidaker. Also, the comments that I read in the feedback, I just like to congratulate the community on. I thought some of the feedback was excellent and really gave us a platform to end up with what you're putting here today. So it's been well done.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Are there any other questions or comments? Councillors, do we have a motion? Councillor Tan?
Yeah. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to recommend that Council endorses the final Mansfield Shire Community Vision 2040.
Thanks, Councillor Tan. Seconder, Councillor Ravi. Councillor Tan, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to congratulate Kurt and his team for a really good policy, a good document, and also the consultants from Spur. I think the key issue here is that the vision has been developed by the community for the community, and it'll be just such a really good guide for us to consult back to. And as you mentioned before, Mr. Mayor, the community comments in there are incredible, and I'd encourage the community to actually have a look at this document, read it, and see what a diverse range of views that the community have and what they want us to do. And I think it's a really good reference document for us to go back to if we're ever in doubt about anything, because it certainly gives good ideals and ideas of where we will be in 2040 and how we're going to get there. So I'd just like to congratulate you guys again on doing it, and yeah, I'm happy to endorse this.
Thanks, Councillor Tan. Councillor Ravi, as the seconder, do you wish to speak?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I fully endorse Councillor Tan's comments about this. The uptake, I was surprised. It's such a large document, and in the process of doing it since I've been on council, realised how much work's been put into this. It's your vision of where we want to go along the way, but of course the community, you will get more deliberative engagement, and keep us informed of how you want us to make this the best shire in Victoria. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Ravi. Any other comments? Councillor Tan, do you wish to say anything else?
Oh, no, just to thank the community for the tremendous effort that they put in responding to this.
Thanks, Councillor Tan. Those in favour of the motion? The motion is passed. Thank you. And thanks, Kurt, for all the work that you've done on this, because you were thrown in at the deep end as soon as you got into the chair. So well done.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And but certainly only that reflects well on my team as well. They did a very good job.
Yeah, it's been a good result. Item 13.3.3 is the Mansfield Emergency Services Precinct funding and in-kind budget application. Responsible officer is Mr. Kurt Heidecker. Councillors, are there any questions or comments? Councillor Ravi?
Yeah, thanks through you, Mr. Mayor, to Kurt. I read in the report the key issues that council will make an in-kind contribution of money to support the management needs from council resources, which is a great way of supporting our community through the talents that we have within our great organisation at council. So great to read that, Kurt. Thanks very much for this report. It's opened my eyes a bit, and I'm happy to see that it's rolling along quite nicely. More of it, not a question, but just thank you very much, Kurt.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. It's again a team effort, but certainly appreciate your recognition of that effort, Councillor Robbie.
Any other questions or comments, councillors? I'd just like to add, there's a lot of community focus on this. If we look at the history of this, that whole site, when it was first put up for sale, it got a massive response from the community about what should be done, and out of that was formed this emergency services precinct. It's very high profile within the community. There's a lot of interest in it, so we want to make sure that we do the best possible job in meeting their requirements as well as what's going to, through what's going to come out of this study. But it's a very high profile. I can't emphasize what a high profile project this one is. Councillors, do we have a motion? Councillor Tan?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move that Council endorses the submission of a Black Summer Bushfire Recovery Grant application for the Mansfield Emergency Services Precinct, lodged on the 6th of October 2021.
Thanks, Councillor Tan. Seconder, Councillor Raby. Councillor Tan, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. This is, as you highlighted before, a very important project, and the community is looking for some progress here. And I'd just like to congratulate the CEO for the excellent grant application. It was really detailed, really thorough, and let's all cross our fingers and hope that it's well received, and that we get this funding, because as we are all aware, the demand for emergency services in this shire is just growing year on year, and we really do need a state-of-the-art emergency services precinct. We've got the people, the community backing it and behind it. So yeah, let's just hope that this is successful, and we can move through to the next stages.
Yes, Councillor Tan. Councillor Raby is the seconder.
Be brief. As a active member of the CFA, I found it that if we're supported by having good infrastructure around us, it makes us feel better out there in the fire ground. And we are our shire is growing exponentially. It's a great vision to have this in our town, fully supported. I know there's a lot of interest in it. Try and get it shovel ready. The CEO's done an amazing job. Is herding cats, and it's, I can't speak highly enough of you, Kayleen, on this. It's fantastic. I really am emotionally so grateful that you're driving this. And Kurt, this is an amazing job that you and your team are doing. And I know I speak for all the councillors here. I really do. So thanks very much for that.
Thanks, Councillor Raby. Councillor Tan, do you wish to add anything more?
No, that's all. Thanks.
Councillors, those in favour of the motion? The motion is passed. Thank you. Item 13.3.4 is the council plan 21-25. Responsible officer is General Manager Community Corporate Services, Kurt Heidecker. Councillors, any questions or comments? Councillor Webb.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just the one. I know I brought it up when this went out to community for comment, but I'm just, regarding the KPIs that are listed against the plan, I'm still not satisfied that they encompass the plan in its entirety. There's a number of strategic objectives, namely 2, 4, and 5, which no KPI really reflect or measure. In my view, I think we could do better in outlining things to measure which reflect these objectives. I just don't think it's quite there yet, in my opinion. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Webb. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Ravi?
Yeah, I suppose on that note, the question is that how difficult is it to get a KPI for 2, 4 and 5? I know that KPIs are a very, they can be very difficult to capture. I know there's been a lot of work in this plan. So Kurt, could you just run me through that and see, and how do you feel it's running?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Look, certainly we mentioned before the changeover of personnel, and that this has been a challenge for us. There's been a lot of work that's occurred in this area, and we have struggled, I think, to find representative KPIs. The council officers have put their heads together, and we've come up with these. We'd probably admit that they're not perfect, and they could still have some further detail around them, some further items. But this is the best that we have at the moment in terms of that effort. But yeah, I think for any other further comment, maybe the CEO could suggest a way forward in terms of that resolution.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The challenge is always about whether you have a KPI for every objective or whether you have KPIs that give you an indication that you're moving forward in the general direction towards the destination. So as our General Manager of Community and Corporate Services has stated, we have looked at various plans across the state, and there seems to be a view that less KPIs the better. And this is what we've come up with. So there is a deadline that council needs to meet in terms of the local government, the new Local Government Act around the council plan, and it is the 31st of October. So it is presented tonight as the best effort that we have been able to come up with to date. I'm really pleased with how the plan is looking, and I understand that a couple of KPIs may not necessarily be there to measure specific areas. Council reviews its council plan each year, is still my understanding. So there would be an opportunity next year to add some KPIs, review the plan, add some further KPIs if they can't become more apparent, I guess. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Webb.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I guess an additional comment to that from my view would be it's difficult to have an objective in a plan without having it to measure anything against. And if it's truly something that we wish to achieve from my management background in business, if it's not measured, it's not viewed at all as important, and it does tend to drop off the wayside. I accept that, and I can understand there's an incredible amount that goes into this plan, and it really is an incredible effort to get to where it is, not discounting that at all, and you should be congratulated. And yes, given the time frame being 31st of October that needs to be submitted, it's not perfect. It might have to do for this year. I would like to review it as next year. But to me, it doesn't sit right with me, but I guess it's acceptable for the next 12 months.
Councillors, any other comments?
It's just a comment, Mr. Mayor, that having been in the merchant navy and driving big ships around the world, it's very difficult to have KPIs for everything. Sometimes you have to have room to move, and I think this is a great plan. I don't want to make a comment before you vote on it, but you know, I see it as a good plan. It's a lot of work in this. It's been going on for a long time since we've joined council. I think this came to us when we very first joined council about a year ago, and there has been some changes in the business, and I know everyone's been working very, very diligently and hard to get this through. So I suppose that's a comment that I'm willing to make before you ask for a vote. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Rowe. Any further comments? Councillors, do we have a motion? Councillor Tan?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move that Council adopts the draft council plan 2021-2025, and 2, endorses the publications council plan 2021-2025 plan on a page, understanding that these are dynamic publications that will be developed ongoing, fit for purpose. And 3, authorises the Chief Executive Officer to make any editorial corrections as required to the draft council plan 2021-2025 and the plan on a page publications.
Thanks, Councillor Tan. Seconder, Councillor Raby. Councillor Tan, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to again congratulate the community for their contributions to this plan. There's been a huge amount of contributions, and that's why it's taken a while and it's changed to get it to the right spot where it is. I think the measurements in this plan, I'd just like to say that I really like the community satisfaction survey. And if you look at it, it's very detailed. It's got 29 points that it's across, and I can't see anywhere in there which doesn't really align itself with this council plan. So I'm actually very happy with that as the feedback on this. As the CEO said, the council plan can change from year to year. So if Councillor Webb wants to come up with some rip-roaring KPIs that would be better, well, I think that'd be a great idea, and to put them forward and so that we can look at them. But I certainly think it's a great plan. I'd like to thank the consultant who we worked with on this, because as Councillor Raby said, when we first came in, I think it was the first briefing session we had was on forming a council plan. So you get thrown in at the deep end. There's no doubt about that. And I think he was fantastic. He guided us through. He really specialised in contacting each individual councillor and seeing what their individual needs were, where they wanted to go, what they thought was good for this plan. I think it was very well explored in that respect. So congratulations to, just forgotten his name for a second.
Andrew Hollow.
Andrew Hollow, yes, yeah. So that was great, and Kurt and your team for putting it all together. And yeah, so that's all. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Tan. Councillor Rowe, wish to speak?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Talking to the community out there, I think you'll be happy to note that it's not a massive read. It's actually something you can pick up and read. That was our brief to Andrew Hollow. We didn't want, a large volume plan. We wanted something that the community would be engaged with reading, and it's for you that this is done. Please read it. It's only 30 pages. It's not much. And I'd like to say that Andrew Hollow is probably the best so far since that I've seen. He was amazing to guide us through. It was a very difficult process to be thrown into this as a new councillor, but he was incredible. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Rowe. Councillor Tan, or sorry, any other councillors wish to speak? Councillor Tan, do you wish to wrap up?
No, thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Those in favour of the motion? Those against? Councillor Raby, Councillor Webb. So 3-4, motion is passed. Thank you. Item 13.3.5 is the Health and Wellbeing Action Plan. And our responsible officer is Jenny Lovick. Welcome, Jenny. She's the Senior Coordinator of Community Health and Wellbeing. Councillors, do we have any questions or comments on this report? Councillor Webb?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. This is a plan I really like. And I just want to thank Jenny for putting this together. I understand this is the first time you've put together a plan such as this, and it's really great. It is really well balanced. There's strategies, actions and outcomes desired from it and measurable targets. Really well set out plan. And I think based on your experience in this field, it shows. I want to congratulate you for being able to put this together. It's wonderful, and I just want to congratulate you. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Webb. Any other comments, councillors? No other comments? Councillors, do we have a motion? Councillor Webb.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Motion being that the Mansfield Municipal Public Health and Wellbeing Action Plan 2021 to that'll be 2025 be endorsed by council.
Councillor Webb, do we have a seconder? Councillor Turn. Councillor Webb, do you wish to speak to the motion?
I've said everything I want to say. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Turn, do you wish to speak as the seconder?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, look, I'd just like to support what Councillor Webb has said about the Health and Wellbeing Action Plan. It was really well put together. It covers all the vital areas that we need to be healthy and have good well-being. So I encourage everyone in the community to have a look at it, to read it. There's some really interesting statistics in there about how we as a Shire are progressing with our health. Some will surprise you. Some surprise me a lot. So, and there's obviously more that we can do. So, but congratulations to Jenny and her team for putting this together.
Thanks, Councillor Turn. Any other councillors wish to speak? Councillor Webb, do you wish to say any more?
No, thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Those in favour of the motion? Motion is passed. And Jenny, I'd also like to congratulate you. It's a really good report. And if I'm correct, it's the first time this report's has been as highly placed front and centre of our plan. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, councillors. Yeah, this is the first time we've put in an integrated plan. So we've embedded some of our health and wellbeing initiatives into our council plan, and then the action plan sits alongside it with the detail. It's very action focused and certainly outlines our partners and how we're going to achieve some of those outcomes.
Yeah, no, well done. Yeah, it was a good plan to read, and it's a pleasure to be supporting it. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item totally different tact here. Item quite different to health and wellbeing is the 13.3.6 Financial Plan 2021-2031. Responsible officer is Acting Manager of Business and Performance, Anthony Smith. Welcome, Anthony.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillors, do we have any questions on this? Can't believe it. First time we've had a long-term financial plan, there's been no questions. I'm stumped. Councillors, do we have a motion? Councillor Tan.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to recommend that Council adopts the financial plan 2021-2031.
Thanks, Councillor Tan. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Ravi. Councillor Tan, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I know you've just come into this role, Anthony, so well done, because I reckon it's a really good 10-year financial support. I'd like to acknowledge your predecessor, Mandy Kinnersley, who did a lot of work, and her team in this as well too. From where we started off to where we finished was a huge difference. And I think there's a massive amount of work went into this, because I don't think that at the start it had probably been looked at for quite a long time. And interestingly enough, there was no submissions received on this, so obviously the community are fairly satisfied with it. Given that initially when this came out, there was a lot of questions and queries raised about our long-term financial, our particularly cash flow by some councillors. And it's very pleasing to see that now the cash reserves going at the next 10 years don't drop below 4.1 million. And I think in 26-27, they actually get to that level, which is a very healthy position for this shire, for us to look at going forward. Means that we will be able to do lots of things down the track. And I think there was a lot of scaremongering at the time around the budget about our long-term financial position. And I'd just like to reiterate to the community that they should have a look at this, see where our financial position is going forward, and be involved in the Shire's finances and put forward questions regarding it. But so, Anthony, well done on being here today, and I'm very happy to recommend this report.
Thanks, Councillor Tan. Councillor Ravi, do you wish to say anything as a seconder?
Yeah, mirroring Councillor Tan's comments here, the low point in this plan, 10-year plan, is positive 4.1 million in 25-26. Now, in my term of council here, which isn't long, our previous budget, there was reference made to our current cash flow projections of this budget and revenue rating strategy has us going broke in year 26-27. That is not the case. Everyone out there, this is a very, very good, solid, responsible financial plan. In fact, we're in positive territory in 26-27 at $4.8 million. So I think, Anthony, you and your team have done an extremely good job of this. I'm happy to have seconded this, and I'm happy to go along and see that Mansfield Shire is in good hands financially, and hopefully will be continue to be a strong and responsible economic council for the next term, that next 3 years. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Councillor Ravi. Any other speakers? Councillor Tan, do you wish to say anything more?
No, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I've said enough.
Okay. Councillor, those in favour of the motion? Motion is passed. Thank you. Thanks, Anthony, for that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And by the way, welcome to the organisation.
Again, thank you.
Item 14, the assemblies of councillors. Responsible officer is the CEO, Ms. Karen Conrick. Councillors, are there any questions or comments? Councillor Rabi?
Yeah, I'm just looking at this on the 12th of October 2021. I had sent an apology to you, Mr. Mayor, that probably wasn't being captured by the council staff. So I apologise for that. I was not in attendance on that date, the 12th of October, for that briefing session.
Thanks, Councillor Rabi. And I think also our CEO was also absent from that meeting on that same day as well. So we might just adjust the recommendation to take account of both of those absentees. Any other questions or comments? Councillors, do we have a motion? Councillor Rabi?
You'll move the motion that council receive and note the council resolutions register as at 28th of September 21 with
Councillor Rabi, I think you're one ahead of us. That's the next item. The recommendations on page 50 under item 14 for assemblies of councillors.
Oh, the assembly. Yeah, sorry, Councillor Webb. You're absolutely right. I've got myself. There's two here. No, that's the recommendation that council receive and note the Assembly of Councillors report for the period of 11th of August and 15th of September 2021. Sorry.
Yep.
Yeah.
With those, sorry, go ahead, Madam CEO.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, with the following corrections to the 12th of October 2021 meeting to delete Councillor Rabi and CEO Ms. Conrick. If that could be put into the motion, please, Councillor Rabi, to correct it for you.
Yeah, thanks, Madam CEO. I'm just getting confused with the way that this has been set out in our agenda tonight, because its recommendation normally comes after the assembly there. So my apologies, everyone. Do we want to reread it? Do we?
Are we clear with the recommendation? Madam CEO?
I think it would be useful through you, Mr. Mayor, for Councillor Rabi to read it again so that our governance coordinator captures that accurately.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
go ahead,
thank you. So I'll read it again. That I put forward the recommendation that council receive and note the Assembly of Councillors report for the period 11th of October to 15th September 2021 with a change that the CEO and Councillor Rabi were apologies for the 12th of October 2021 briefing session.
Hang on, sorry, have I got something wrong? I agree with Councillor Rabi. There's something wrong here, isn't it?
Something very wrong, isn't there?
Yeah, that's what's throwing me with it.
Looking at that too, and that is not correct.
The period's not right.
No,
yeah, no, it's not.
So you're right, Councillor Rabi. It's a mistake there. Yeah.
So the council receive and note the Assembly of Councillors report for the period.
Let's say 11th of September is it?
Well, it should be 16th of September to the
16th of October.
Yeah. My apologies, Mr. Mayor, that was incorrect.
So, Councillor Rabi, would you just want saying that again? So everyone's very clear. Yeah.
Okay, so The recommendation that's put before us is, as I'm reading, the incorrect one. So it's, can you give me the dates, Madam CEO, please?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, the date should be from the 16th of September to the 13th of October.
Okay. Here we go again. So I've moved the recommendation that council receive and note the Assembly of Councillors report for the period 16th of September to the 13th of October with the amendment that the CEO, Kayleen Conrick, and Councillor Stephen Raby were apologies for the 12th of October 2021.
Well, that's correct. Understand.
And my apologies to everyone watching here. We don't always get it right, but we do in the end.
No problems. Thanks, Councillor Raby. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Tan. Those in favour of the motion? The motion is passed. Item 15 is the council resolutions register. Councillors, do we have a motion, please? Councillor Webb.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Motion being that council receive and note the council resolutions register as at 28th of September 2021.
Thank you. A seconder? Councillor Raby. Those in favour of the motion? Motion is passed. Next item is item 18, the closure of the meeting to members of the public. We will close the meeting to discuss confidential information. Do we have a motion, please, councillors? Councillor Webb.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Motion being that the meeting be closed to members of the public under section 66(2)(a) of the Local Government Act 2020 to consider confidential information as defined by section 3(1) of the Local Government Act 2020 as council business information, being information that would prejudice the council's position in commercial negotiations if prematurely released.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Raby. Those in favour of the motion? Motion is passed. Thank you. We'll close the meeting to the public and come back to the meeting after this item has been discussed. Sorry, Maura, you're on mute.
We're now streaming live. We've rejoined the meeting.
Okay, thanks, Nora. Having completed all the items on the agenda, I'd now like to declare the October meeting closed. Thank you, councillors. Thank you, members of the executive. The meeting is closed. Good night. And thank you, members of the public who are on board as well. Thank you.
We are